Hey guys, it's Katie, and I'm here today to do a review of Truthwitch by Susan Dennard. Now, before we get started, you guys can probably tell that my room has been redone. Yeah, my wallpaper is gone. No more clouds and bunnies and fairies and butterflies, unfortunately. So I've got some lovely gray. It looks a lot nicer in person, but I have a feeling you guys are going to have a little bit of a transition of getting used to it. But since I'm going on hiatus soon, you guys are going to still have the clouds and the butterflies and the fairies and things for a large chunk of the rest of the year because I did a lot of pre-filming the last couple of months. So you'll have a few scattered with the new walls, but yeah, this is new. So welcome to my new room that is mostly the same except for, the entire color and scheme. And I don't have a lot of my pictures on the walls anymore either. It's been a bit of an adjustment period. But that's not why we're here today. We're here today to talk about Truthwitch by Susan Dennard. And I'm going to try and explain briefly what this book is about for those of you who don't know. And then we'll launch into my normal kind of review that I normally do with the world building, the writing, the plot, and the characters. So first, just brief summary in the best way that I can. This book takes place in a world where elemental magic is kind of at its core. And elemental magic in this world does not mean just air, fire, earth, and water. It encompasses other things as well, like wordsmithing and just like general, I don't know, just anything you can think of can become a witchery in this world. So this book mostly follows Safia, or Safi, who is our main character, and she is a truth witch. Truth witches are incredibly rare in this world. So rare that she needs to keep it secret because all these people otherwise would be after her to try and use her for their own gain in one way or another. So the basic premise of this book, it follows our main character, Safia, or Safi, in her kind of crazy adventure shenanigans. This book is told from multiple points of view, and I will tell you a little bit about the characters down the line. But Safi is our main character. She is a truth witch, and truth witches in this world are incredibly rare. She also has a platonic soulmate called a thread sister named Isolde. And Isolde is just kind of everything to Safi. They have such an incredible bond. I love their friendship. It is one of my favorite things of this entire book. And the beginning of the book is Safi has lost a ton of money gambling. She gambled away all of her and Isolde's savings. It's great. And now they're kind of figuring out what to do, figuring out how to catch this person, and get into all kinds of crazy shenanigans. And they get themselves thrust into all this political intrigue, and all this kind of chaotic stuff happens. That's the, really small, slight, terrible explanation that I have for you on this book. So let's see if I can clear it up a little bit for you guys by launching into my normal analysis. So starting with the writing. Honestly, I thought the writing was in some ways the weakest part of the book. Now hear me out. There's some really, really great parts of the writing, but at the same time I was able to kind of distance myself from the story at times because of the way certain things were being written. The pacing was also just a little bit off. It just didn't flow as well as I would have liked. Sometimes I was a little bit just lost in the plot line. I was like, oh, I thought we were over here, but then we ended up being over here. So it was just not as flowy and as flow as well as I would have liked. That being said, there were some really, really great scenes, and I found that the writing got a lot better as the book went on. So maybe it was just the beginning giving us all of this information in order for us to get to the point that we wanted. I don't know, but the writing was definitely, in my opinion, not its strong point, but it definitely did get better as the book went on. Next, talking about the plot. The plot is kind of similar to the writing to me. It felt a little bit disjunct at times in terms of the narrative of the story and what was happening when and what was going on and everything. I really did enjoy the overall plot. I loved the political intrigue. I loved the journey that we were being taken on these characters. It was just really, really fun and interesting, and I'll be interested to see how it continues on in the next books. Third, let's talk about the characters. So as I mentioned, we have several different characters that we follow. I believe we have 4 POVs. We have Safi, Isolde, and then we have Merrick, I believe is his name, and then Adawan. Adawan? I don't know how to say his name. But they all bring different aspects to the world. I loved getting inside of each of their heads. It was really, really interesting because they all had different things to add, and it just kind of made it an overall richer experience. So definitely, the characters were definitely one of the strong points of this book. Safi is really, really interesting. I loved getting to see her, just her journey, her experiences. I loved her relationships, particularly with Isolde. I just loved their dynamic, loved how they met, just how they worked overall. It was one of the best friendships I have seen in a book in ages, and I just really, really liked it. Just strong female relationships should be used more in books, and I just really, really enjoyed getting to see that. I also kind of enjoyed Safi's relationship thing, whatever, with Merrick. I thought that was also really interesting. They, kind of have like a hate to kind of like situation. At times I felt it was a bit rushed, but at the same time I really enjoyed getting to see that kind of get fleshed out. So it was just kind of this tug of war struggle thing. And at times it didn't work, but at times it really did. And just getting to see them and their dynamic was really interesting as well. Moving on a little bit to Isolde. Isolde has a very, very interesting storyline within the overarching story. She is a thread witch, and thread witches have a very particular ability. I don't know how to describe it very well, so just bear with me. These are super important to the world. They kind of like when they find that person that they bond with the most, like they're kind of their protector. They are just super important for each other in a lot of ways. If one is without the other, then it's just complete and utter chaos usually. But I just really loved Isolde's story. She has a really, really incredible underlying subplot that I really enjoyed. I won't go into it too much, but I definitely loved her parts in some ways the most out of everybody's. So yeah, I just really enjoyed getting to see her. Whether she was with Safi or not, I just loved Isolde's storyline probably the most out of everyone's. Now moving on to Merrick. Merrick is a wind witch, and he has a wonderful thread brother, Cullen. And I love Cullen a lot, okay? I was just a fan, a huge fan of him. And so you can imagine that there were certain parts of the book that I was not loving because of certain events, but I did really like their dynamic. I loved getting to see Cullen's underarching plot line as well. He's a tradesman / sailor kind of a guy, and he's kind of tasked with bringing Safi somewhere else because of an agreement he's partaken in, but he doesn't expect her to be the way she is, aka make his life a little bit difficult. But I was just a fan. So yes. I just really liked the dynamic with everybody. Merrick was just really interesting to see, and I kind of am looking forward to learning his plot line a little bit more. And finally, talking about Idawan. Idawan, I also really liked. It could be argued that my two favorite storylines, like sub-storylines of the overarching book, were between Isolde and Idawan. Idawan is a blood witch, and being a blood witch, he was kind of given an assignment basically to go and assassinate people. He's basically a mercenary, which is cool. But he ends up getting on the trail of Safi and Isolde. And it's basically, we just follow him chasing after those two for a large portion of the book. But we learn a lot about him along the way, and I just ended up really liking his character at first. I was just like, buddy, who are you and what is your like life's purpose, right? But as the book went on, I actually found that I really liked him a lot more because he's just a super morally gray character, and we know Katie loves a great morally gray character. And I don't know, just some of the characters that like they meet and they have interesting dynamics, and there's a lot more complexity to the overarching plot than what you just see on the page, and I just really liked that. So I'll be interested to see how his storyline gets expanded upon because, yes, please. I was just a fan, so it was great. Now moving on to the world building. And honestly, the world building is what made this book for me. It was phenomenal. I loved the world building. It was so rich, and it was so deep, and it was so different than a lot of other things that I've seen before. So I was just loving that. So as I kind of explained throughout this video, the world building is kind of created on this elemental magic, but it's a lot more than that. As I said before, the elemental magic, you know, it's more than just fire, water, air, and earth. It's got other types of magic in there as well, as I mentioned, truth witchery and word witchery and things of that ilk. But there's also a lot of like really great political intrigue. And the thing that I loved about it, and I know that one of my booktube best friends, Vendi from Caught Between Pages, go check her out. This is like her favorite series of all time. Currently, whatever, you get the point. She loves this series and talks about it a lot. And one thing that I know for a fact about this world is that it was based on the Balkans, and particularly Croatia. And honestly, knowing that going in really, really enhanced my experience because I was able to pick up on it. I mean, I would have picked up on it anyway because of the way that certain things are written, and even just looking at the map that I was provided, I just loved it. And then even just the political intrigue and the war and everything, it just kind of seemed to draw on and have essences kind of surrounding certain other wars that were going on at one point or another, slash are still going on in some ways. Yeah, so I was just able to pick up on that, and it was really, really wonderful to get to see because I need, not want, I need good Slavic, Baltic, Balkans representation in books, and in particular fantasy books. And I think this one, even though it's not explicitly that, it is that enough that honestly really made this book for me. I just loved getting to see that. I loved getting to see like the little things here and there, even the language in some way, like the little snippets that we got here and there were kind of had similar bases in some ways. I just really liked getting to see that in this book. It was great, and I can't wait to continue on to see it expanded further because how the book ended, it ended in a, I don't want to call it a cliffhangery way, but like it ended in a different part of the world where the majority part of the book started. So I'm interested to see how this all continues on because honestly, as I said, the world building is really, really what solidified and made me love this book. Because as I said, the plot and the writing was a little bit lacking for me. The characters were great and they were driving it all forward, but the world building is really what kept me invested and made me want to keep going and consuming it faster and faster, because it was just so interesting and I just loved getting to learn about it and getting to see it. Now, one thing I would like to mention is that I didn't like how heavy it was introduced to us in some ways. Like the very beginning of the book, I don't want to call it info dumpy, but it was just like a lot of information all at once about the world building. It's like, here is this whole story. Now we're going to like flesh it out as we go. I think I would have liked it to be introduced a little bit slower so I could savor it a little bit more. But that's just, in some ways, that's kind of like a minor quibble. But overall, I really enjoyed this book, and I am definitely looking forward to reading, what is Windwitch, the second one? Let's see, I know it goes Truthwitch, and then Windwitch. I know Sightwitch is a novella, I think that's 2.5, and then Bloodwitch. Correct me if I'm wrong, those of you who've read it, but I'm pretty sure the next one is Windwitch. And one day I will get my hands on that book, and I'm looking forward to continuing. Anyway, that's about all I've got for you guys today. I'm curious to know, have you read this book? And if you have, who is your favorite character so far? And what's your favorite aspect of the world building, if you have one? Also, let me know if you've read it and or are planning on reading this book. But other than that, you guys know the drill. Both of my social media links are down below in the description. I have a Twitter and a Goodreads, and I'm also starting something new, and I'm going to link my ships and fandoms page down below, because I feel like a lot of people are asking me more and more about that, and because I changed that in some ways more than I'm able to put out content about it, so I'm just going to link it down below for you guys so you guys can see how that all is working out. But other than that, I will catch you later in another video for you guys again soon. Okay, bye.